Welcome back to Michelle's Cooking Corner. Let's go ahead and start our appetizer. So our appetizer is going to be stuffed mushrooms with some minced clam and Ritz crackers. Am I gonna take this whole Ritz cracker and try to stuff it into a mushroom? Absolutely not. We're gonna crumble it. What do you think that they do at restaurants, that they have some sort of magical stuffing fairy that has some sort of stuffing mixture? No, that it actually starts from somewhere, either a crust of bread or some crackers. So I pick some nice butter-rich crackers that are salted, because it's already flavored. It has a lot of butter in it already, and it just tastes really good. So the way I started is, first I take about a half a stick of butter and I melt it in a pan. So let's start that. Let's get that going. Don't want to start a fire. And get that melted. And this is mushrooms are, I use mushrooms as kind of like a meat substitute many times, because like if you're ever having, like, if you're on a diet or something and you're used to having like sausage, a sausage and cheese omelet with, you know, a bunch of crap in it, you can substitute the sausage for mushrooms. Why? Because it's kind of like a meaty texture, and it also has it also absorbs whatever seasonings that you put in your dish. So if you like a salty dish, add a mushroom and it'll absorb the salt. So the way I make my stuffing is, as you can see, I just take my crackers and I put them together in a row and I just crumble them. I don't need a bunch of muscle to do it. Just take it and you crumble it together as such. You always sound smart when you say as such, right? So just crumble it together. And there you go, there's your stuffing. And my clam, my minced clam, it's just regular store-bought clam. Make sure you get a name brand clam, please. Let's not get a generic brand of clam before you get sick. God knows what's in it. So get a name brand clam, spend a couple extra dollars, and get a nice can of clam, minced clam. So I took my clam and I actually seasoned it with some nice seafood seasoning and a fresh clove of garlic, as you can see here. And let's throw that in with the butter. Whenever I hear whenever I hear any type of food sizzle, I always think it's angry at me, but once I'm done with it, I feel like we made up. Like after a nice argument. So let's dump that. And I know I'm using a knife to mix it together, but who's watching? Oh, wait, you are. So let's take our stuffing mixture and pour it in there. And now this is gonna melt down really fast with the butter, because remember, we just used half a stick of butter in there. So let's toss this up. If you find an extra cracker in there, just crumble it up. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. If you're doing this before a nice date, make sure you cook this first before you get dressed, because you don't want a bunch of crumbs all over you. And you'll see that the mixture is coming along, the stuffing is coming along quite well. You can take, this is a 3 cheese mixture. So it's like Asiago cheese, Parmesan cheese, and something else. Oh goodness. Asiago, Parmesan, and something else. How about that? So you take this. I take about a tablespoon of this and just dump it in there. You don't want to use too much, because it'll melt together, and you don't want it to melt together. You want the cheese to crust on top, but you want to give it some flavoring, right? Because look at that, look at the cheese. It's like getting to know the clam, it's getting to know the garlic, It's getting to know the crackers that you put into it. So now it's confused. Like, what am I? I thought I was supposed to just go on the cracker. Absolutely not. You're gonna actually go into a whole mushroom. So you take your 3 cheese blend, which you can get at your grocer's mart. Don't get it in the regular dairy section. Actually go to the fancy cheese section. You know, when you make a meal, you're gonna spend a little bit of money, and you want each meal to be an event. So don't be cheap with it, you know. Be respectful of your body and what you're putting into it. So you see how all of that blends together so nicely. So you have your clam, you have your butter, you have your stuffing and your cheese. And remember, the clam is already cooked, so you can actually eat this. This meal can actually, instead of clam, you can use like crab, you can use lobster if you're feeling a little bit fancy. So you take this and you just separate it, put it in a bowl, because this is done. This actually only took like 2 to 3 minutes to blend together with the butter, and just remove it from the pan. Okay, and it's gonna smell really, really, really good. I can smell that cheese right now. Okay, and this menu, the idea for this dish actually came from one of our viewers. And I just want to thank our viewer Mala for giving me the idea of making this recipe, which is stuffed mushrooms. So you can actually buy, it's called stuffing mushrooms from your grocery store. And I know you're like, what in the world is stuffing mushrooms? I've never seen them before. They're just regular white jumbo mushrooms. They don't come like this already capped. So you have to actually take, they come like this with the stem in it. You take the stem out, done. Now it's a stuffing mushroom. How about that? Pay me for that. So you take that and your mixture, and you just take a spoon and you stuff it. Look at this. Mala actually made this for me one day, and it came out pretty good, and I actually don't like other people's cooking. It's very rare that I eat at someone else's table. I'm always afraid I'm gonna get sick, and you always hear me saying things like, you don't know if they wash their hands, or you don't know what they do in the kitchen, and just pray that they're have the good vibes about them. But Mala is an actually good person. So she gave me this. I made this one day. Instead of clams, I used, what did I use? Crab. And this is actually a hot mixture. And remember that I have hot hands, so I don't actually feel this heat. No, my hands are not callousy or anything. It's just, I come from a generation of chefs, so it doesn't really bother me that this is hot. So you just put about a teaspoon in each mushroom cap. Remember, you wash your mushrooms. Why? Because they come from the ground and there's a fungus. You want to make sure it's clean and you're healthy. So put about a teaspoon of each into a mushroom, and this is about two packages of mushroom in here, and I'm just hoping that it'll last. So this is 2 packages of mushroom, 1 sleeve of crackers, and just a sprinkle of cheese. And this is gonna taste so good. Look at this. We're almost running out. We only have 2 left. And I'm not saying take the rest and eat it like it's cereal. Don't do that. So we have that. And now it might look a little messy, but it's gonna taste so, so good. So you take that, you take your mushroom caps, you take your some of your 3 cheese. What's the 3rd cheese? Let me know. Machelles at 617live.tv. Let me know what that 3rd cheese is, and sprinkle it over your mushrooms as such. And don't worry that you got it in between, because it's gonna be this is totally well worth it. So you take this. And it smells so good. You can smell the fresh cheese. Don't get the powdered cheese, people. Come on. Make each meal an event. So now you take this. This bakes for like 10, 15 minutes, not even. Pull it out, put it on a nice tray, present it to your guests. They're actually gonna think you know what you're doing. So there you go. You have your stuffed mushrooms with minced clam and your 3 cheese. You don't even need a cover. So now that your appetizer's in the oven, we're gonna go ahead and throw our side in. Remember, we already have our rosemary lemon chicken with the honey glaze, where we're waiting for the honey glaze until the chicken's almost done. We've already went ahead and chopped up our russet potatoes. So we're gonna add them to a pan. Oh, they're a little brown, but don't worry, because we're gonna season it and it's not even gonna matter. Move this over here. So we're gonna take these potatoes, we're gonna add some seasoning to it. Why? Because it's called seasoned potatoes. Do you wanna add too much salt to it? Absolutely not. Why? Because potatoes absorb salt. And a lot of times whenever you're making a stew, you throw a potato in there if it's too salty to take up all of the salt, so that people actually think you know what you're doing when really they don't see that whole potato in the bottom of that part. So you take your potato, you throw it in there as a secret. I made a cabbage stew recently with salmon. It was so good. I ate it for 2 days, lost 3 pounds. That's a whole nother show, a dieting show. So this is just some crushed pepper. Take some garlic powder. Be very generous with the garlic. I love garlic. It gives it such a flavor. Take, this is about 1 tablespoon of butter, just so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. It really doesn't do much for it. And you just toss it. Toss your potatoes. Not your salad, but the potatoes. Okay? And that's gonna go over nice and lovely. And if you want, you can add a little bit of greenery to it, such as a parsley. This is a very low calorie dish. Instead of butter, you can actually use olive oil. So let's do a rinse. And I chopped them up nice and small because I want them to cook pretty fast, especially if it's a Sunday meal. Again, I just came in at 4 o'clock in the morning and I don't want to be up all day cooking. So I cover it nice and tight. And you throw it in the oven, and remember the oven is already hot because you got your mushrooms in there, you've got your chicken in there, everything is just waiting to be cooked. And this takes probably about 20 minutes, not even. Look at it, I can smell these mushrooms already. So there you go. So we're gonna wait for those potatoes to get done. Our mushrooms should be done first, and our chicken is on its way, so stay tuned. And you can see our next side dish, which is some nice spinach, whole leaf spinach with some carrots, so stay tuned.